Hi, it's Mike. Welcome to Looking for Gold. Today's show is going to be a little different. Have you ever heard of the Bazooka Gold Trap? Well, there was a guy named Schmidt, and a couple years back he had created a dredge with a little trap on the bottom of it. It was a great idea. So me and some friends rented one from Golden Jim Grubbin up in Cleveland, Georgia, and we took it out in the creek. Well, what we didn't realize was that it had to be level, and you could do it about like that. But if it tipped over on the side, all your gold gets shot out of the back of it. And after a hard day's dredging, we realized, hey, there's no gold in there. Well, now this company has come out and they have a copy of it. They've made a sluice out of his idea. And I was thinking, wow, this is a really great sluice. You know, this would be great because you don't have to classify it. And then I saw a video from a guy in South Carolina named Indy Me Too, and he has his friend Nugget, and they do this comparison of two sluices. And it's kind of funny because it's obvious that the Gold Trap Sluice is, the Bazooka Gold Trap Sluice is way better. So it really got me thinking. I'd like one, but it's $200. Well, they have a $100, a $200, and a $300 version. The $100 one is really small, about that big. And to get any kind of production on it, you need the bigger one, which is about this big, and that's $200. I felt like that was a lot of money to spend to test something, you know, just to see if it would work. What if it didn't work? So I found the patent, the original patent from the old guy Schmidt who had created it. And I decided I'll make a cheap version of my own, you know, just to test it out, just to try to prove the concept, to see if it would work or not. So what I've done is I've made it out of plexiglass. Now, it's not the sturdiest in the world, and it would probably break if you dropped it. And actually, I dropped it twice already and had to repair it. But let me show you what I've got, and then I'm going to show you a demonstration of how it works, which will prove that it is a good idea. And if you're looking for a sluice that you don't have to classify, it's probably one of the better sluices on the market. So what I did was I made it out of plexiglass. You can see it has a taper, and it's about 25 inches long. Now what I've done is the professional one, the one that you buy for $200, has a grizzly right here. But what I did was I just was able to classify the material by making this a 1/4 inch gap between this top plate and this slide plate, which is the base of the top of the sluice. The bottom has water flowing in here, so it's two stages, 2 layers. Water flows in the bottom and it flows into the tubes, which liquefies the trap area. So it liquefies all of the material in the trap. Now, the first time I used it in a creek, I thought that it should be spraying out, that the water would be spraying out and liquefying, you know, keeping all of the material in motion, completely stratifying it. But what happened is this box filled up, and when it filled up, it looked like nothing was moving in it. So I thought I had done it wrong. But then I did some tests and I realized that the material doesn't move in it. It just stays in a suspension, liquid, because this is filled with liquid and it keeps enough movement in there even though you can't see it. So in order to prove that, what I did was I created a small concentrator. Using the same technology, I created a concentrator out of plexiglass, and this time I put a grizzly in it. And you can see that it has the same features, except this time you can put a hose on the back of it and it sprays into the box. I also thought it would be nice to have it spray down into the top of the box, the slide, this little ramp here, to move the material down. And what I found was the hose was too big, and it's locked in here, so it can't move back and forth, and the water pressure isn't sufficient to get up into this area here. And this box is too big. The trap is actually too big. It holds too much material, you know, at the end of it. And when you're dealing with sand, it's fine. The sand comes right down in and flows out. But when you're dealing with clay, the clay fills up in this area, and you have to force it down through to get it under that lip. So that was the first prototype. So I created another one. With this prototype, you can see that the grizzly is slanted, just like the Bazooka Gold Trap Sluice is. And the grizzly is before the trap. So there's a little piece here that sticks down before the trap starts. I made the trap smaller so it wouldn't hold so much material. I made the pipes a smaller diameter so that the pressure, the water pressure, would stay high, and that allowed it to come up into this tube here. Also, I left it so that this tube could move around, and then that way I could direct the spray wherever I wanted onto that ramp. So this one has two tubes that come through it, and also connects to a hose, but I have it using a recycling pump. So what I decided was I want to show you why this is quite a remarkable design, and that Schmidt had a really good idea. Now the Bazooka Gold Trap Company, they are using this style, you know, this same technology, and they have, I think, perfected it. And I realized by looking at what they've created and looking at the videos that they did and building all these different prototypes, just how much they have tweaked their design and how actually good it is. And what I mean is that you could run that sluice all day long without cleaning it, and it would still catch all the gold. Now, to prove that, I'm going to do a test. So I tried to figure out what a good test would be, and I thought, well, if you had material that used to be ore but has been stripped of all the gold, and then you resalt it with fine specks of gold, like these 8 flecks, basically from flake to micro gold, 2 of each. If I was able to recover them, then I would get what I would consider near or close to 100% recovery. So let's use this as our test. Alright, I got the machine running, and in order to do the test correctly, I got these 8 pieces of gold, and what I decided was I'll take 3 buckets of material, just about 5 gallons, because it would be unfair if I ran just a little bit of material through, because the trap holds a little bit of material. So what I need to do first is fill up that trap with material I know doesn't have gold in it. Then run material through it that I know has gold in it, which is this gold, these 8 flecks that I put in there. So let's put that in here. So if we get those 8 flecks back, then it's catching all the gold. So you can see it stirring up in there, but right now there's not a lot of material in it. So I'm just moving the material in, letting it stratify. And you can see as it fills up, the material starts moving around those pipes. But right now, the material's still in suspension. Now look at it. It looks like the whole trap is full and the material is not moving around. The only thing about that is if I did that, look how easy my finger goes in that. So the material is in suspension. It just doesn't look like it. And that's what I thought was wrong with this sluice. Because when the material fills up in here, it just looks like it's full. But there's no way for me to tell, because I can't get my finger in there, that it was all in suspension the entire time. So what I know is that the material is in suspension, it just looks like the trap is packed solid. And that's after, you know, just a quarter of the bucket. But let's keep going, because the last bucket I do will be the one with the gold in it. See in this model that there's not enough water pressure up here to actually force all the sand through the gravel. So I kind of have to toss the gravel a little bit to get the sand to move through. But still I'll be able to move through these 3 buckets, so about 5.5 gallons of material in about 30 minutes. So you may be wondering why I built these prototypes in the sluice. Well, originally I built the sluice because I felt like $200 was a lot to spend on a sluice that may or may not work. And the technology looked easy enough that you could just, you know, build it yourself. The problem I found was finding materials that were sturdy enough. This plexiglass isn't sturdy enough at all. I'm just babying it and making it work. But when I used the sluice originally, it looked like it wasn't working at all. And I wondered what I had done wrong or why it wasn't working. But in order to find that out, I built the first prototype. And I realized when I saw this was full, but I was able to stick my finger down into the trap and realized that it was all liquid. That's when I knew how this worked. Really what it does is it creates a bed of water and material. This gravel that's in here actually protects the gold and helps the gold work down. So as I put more material over the top, it flows out. It flows out and works all the heavies down. So it's the action of this new material washing over this bed of stratified material that actually works the gold down into it. And when I did the first one, I realized that it didn't work that well with clay and there had to be a better way. I went back and looked at how they did it, and I saw that they had that inclined grizzly, and I patterned this machine after it. But this machine has proven that the concept is sound.